Welcome to Lesson 13, Creating Images for Web, Video, and Interactive Use. Photoshop's flexibility and range of features have allowed it to gain acceptance in nearly every sector of the creative industry. A very common use for Photoshop is creating imagery for web, application, and video production. We're going to start with this image where we're going to set up navigational links in it, and I'll show you a little bit about slicing and other things that you're going to want to be concerned with if you're creating images that are going to go online or stay on screen. This particular image is rather large. I'm going to go into image size, and I just want to explain something to you. When you're looking at an image that's going to be used on screen, you're going to want to make sure you're looking at it in pixels. And that is because the typical designer now is building screens that are between 900 and maybe 1200 pixels wide. That would be a little bit big. But if you were to think about the proportions and the space that an image this size would take, you'd have to look at it and say, wow, this image is going to take 3/4 of that width up. And so you need to talk to your developer, and if you're the developer, you need to have an idea of how large your container is that's containing all your imagery and your text and everything else that's going to be on screen, and start breaking things down into proportions. So if you did want this image to be half the size of your 1000 pixel application, you would want to type in 500. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to worry about resolution or anything else. A pixel is a pixel. It doesn't matter if this were to say 1200 in the resolution. This is all that matters when you're doing on-screen presentations of your images. So I'm going to cancel that for right now, and I'm going to just do a really quick flip of this image rotation, flip canvas horizontally, and I'm going to start to just create something here. Go fly a kite. Let's spell that right. Select all. And I'm going to bring this up to about a 60, and I'm going to change the color. Let's see, make sure it's white. Nope, I can leave that the same. And I'm going to put this in as Myriad Pro. I'm also going to center this. I might do something slightly differently, but it's basically the same lesson that you've got in Lesson 13 of your digital classroom book. I'm selecting the text, and I'm going up to Warp, and I'm going to select that I want to rise this. And it's a little much, so I'm going to change the bend to 10, and maybe the vertical distortion to 25, and that's more what I wanted. I also want to add a little bit of an outer glow to this. So I'm going down to the effects in the layers panel. I'm selecting the outer glow, and I want to change the blending mode to normal so I can see it a little bit better. I'm going to click on this little color swatch, go into the blues and pick a nice blue, and then maybe I want to change the size a little bit so I can see it a little bit better. Now let me just mention, if you were creating a style that was going to be used repeatedly through your web page or your application, you could create a new style. By saving that style, I've just added to a panel called Styles. And you'll notice that if I pull the panel out, that there's my style at the end, so that if I decide that I'm going to do text again later, I can easily apply that style in one click. Now I'm going to undo that because I don't really want that style on that word. I'm creating another word here, and I'm going to make sure it's a little bit smaller, and I'm closing up the text area. And the reason I'm closing up the text area is because I'm going to use something called distribute later, and I want to make sure there's not a bunch of extra space after that text. Now I'm putting some text over here off to the right, and these are going to be my clickable links. You can use this as a prototyping example to create an interactive prototype or wireframe to show customers. You can save these files once they've been set up with the clickable navigational links in CSS or in HTML, but be careful with that because most developers would look at that code and say, we could refine it a little bit better by doing this by hand or in a different application, but a great start to have. So now I am selecting sales, and instead of creating a new text area, I'm just holding down my Alt key while I'm on the Move tool. And you'll notice that I'm dragging this down. And by the way, if you're still in sales and your text area is still active, like for instance, if I come in here and go back to my type tool and select this, you have to click on the commit button up here before you can go on and select the move tool and start alt dragging or option dragging to clone. I'm typing in here service, and then I'll just use the commit button. I'm taking the move tool again, but this time I'm going to be super lazy and hold down my alt or option key and do this 2 more times so that I don't have to go back again and do it. And in this box I'm doing about, commit, and the last one, contact. Not the most interesting website, but this is good for what we've got right now. Now I'm going to the layers panel, and I am selecting all 4 of those layers, the contact, about, service, and sales. And of course they're backwards in there because the last layer you create appears at the top of the stack. Doesn't matter. We're going to the move tool and we're selecting distribute. And I selected the distribute vertical centers. And so you can see that spacing is now distributed. I'm going to click just the about layer and maybe just position this a little bit better. I'm holding down the control or command key to turn on my auto select and just line these up a little bit better so they follow that curve. Now next I'm going to slice this image up so that I can create these as clickable links. And how I'm going to do that is by using guides. So I'm pressing Control R. If you're on a Mac, you would press Command R. And I'm just going to click and drag on the ruler and pull a guide out. Click and drag on a ruler again. And you can see that I'm just clicking and dragging that guide right out of the ruler. And I'm separating all these sections. The reason I'm doing that is because I can quickly and easily go up to the slice tool, and you'll see that hidden in the crop tool is a slice tool, and if you activate that you can go up to your options and choose slices from guides. And now I've created all these slices. I don't need all these, I only need some of these. So I'm going to go over to the slice select tool and select this slice and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and that one. So I went down the line, and then I'm going to right click and select combine slices. Now I'm still seeing the guides, and that's okay. And if you don't want to see your guides, you can go under view to clear guides. I'm also going to select all of these slices and right click and choose to combine them as well. Now you'll notice I can select each one of these slices. I can even go into each slice, click on the slice options, and then add a URL that I want them to go to. So maybe I'll say this is going to sales.html, and I actually have these files sitting inside your lesson folder. So when you save this file, we'll make sure we save it into the PS13 lessons folder. I can put a target, meaning if I wanted to open a new window, I could use blank. The default is that it opens right in the same window, and that's fine. I can put an alt tag in, and then I can click OK. So I'm just going to go through and do this for a couple more, and I won't put everything in, but I will put enough in that we can create our links. Okay, one more here after this, and in this one we're going to go about.html and about. And here's our last one. And I'm not putting HTTP here or any other link information because these files actually do exist, again, in your lessons folder. Next step, choose File Save for Web. In here, you'll notice that you can select all the slices at once, and you can select that maybe you want to save them as a PNG, or you can select some of the defaults directly at the top. Maybe for space, you want to stick with a JPEG medium. When I select JPEG medium, though, you can see it doesn't handle the text really well because text needs a little bit more definition. I can select individual slices, and I can change these slices to maximum. to make their quality a little bit better. You could even change them to GIF or PNG or whatever you want to do. The next thing I want to do is save this. And I'm going into my PS13 lessons folder because you can see that's where these other pages already exist. I'm selecting that I want to export HTML and images, and I'm going to settings and I'm selecting other because I want to be able to show you that you can output XHTML, or I can come in here and even customize further by telling Photoshop to export CSS instead of a table. You'll notice that you have a lot of options in here as far as setting up how the code is exported. I'm going to click on OK, and then I'm going to click on Save. And you'll notice that now when I go back to that folder, so I'll go to my desktop, I'll locate that folder, that I have a file in here called PS1301. Yours might be called 1301_work if you saved it correctly. And I'm just selecting that I want to open this in Firefox or in Internet Explorer. And here's my file that I just created, and you'll notice that it works, that it actually connects to those other pages. So in this lesson, you found out how to create an interactive Photoshop file that can be exported for the web or other applications. This has been Jennifer Smith for Digital Classroom.